Hi, this is Steve.
This is Bob.
This is Jay.
We are Alpha Quadrant 6, a science fiction review show.
This episode, guys, is part of our Season 3, The Science in Science Fiction.
And today we're covering Superman from 2025.
Last year. And what's that guy's name?
His name is David Cornsweet.
Cornsweet.
David Cornsweet.
He's basically like a walking workout. You know what I mean?
Cornsweet. All right, how was the science in Superman?
Before we get to the science, just very quickly, did you guys like the movie or not like the movie?
Liked it a lot. Fun, creative, some bold moves. I mean, nerfing Superman's powers took a little getting used to.
Yeah. So I loved the new choices that they made. So I love they nerfed Superman's powers right at the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, gets his ass kicked because the biggest narrative problem with the entire Superman franchise is his invulnerability. It's kind of like remember older movies, he's fighting other people from Kryptonite, and it's like, well, they're just pounding each other and destroying property. Like, they can't injure each other. They're just destroying whatever property is around them.
And they're from Krypton, not Kryptonite, but simple slip.
I mean, typically, Superman gets put into moral dilemmas. To save this person or save that person.
Yeah. So but it's good. I mean, invulnerability is an impossibility, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, it means it implies infinite energy or whatever. There's no infinities. So, right? There's no.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to be stronger than somebody else. So I like the fact that he could get the shit kicked out of him. So that was good.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I like the fact that his parents sent him here to conquer Earth.
That was a nice twist.
That was a twist.
Why not? Yeah.
Nice twist.
And also, but you're right, Jay. He no matter how physically invulnerable he is, and this movie shows that he has political vulnerability and emotional and relationship vulnerabilities.
Yeah, it seemed a little naive at times, right?
Yeah.
But to him, it's like people were going to die.
Yes.
So interesting take. It's a slippery slope, though. I don't want too much politics in my superhero movies. It's just
that tweaked me a little bit too. I want him to be.
I disagree.
I think a little bit is fine, and they walked the line. Okay, it was fine, but you don't want it to go too far because then it kind of takes away some of Superman's core things that I like about him. He's got to be kind of above it. He's got to be operating in a different sphere.
I mean, so one of the typical things that happens in these comic book superhero stories is you have superheroes fighting supervillains, and that's pretty much it. And they're divorced from life goes on otherwise. Their job is to just make life go on without any change by counteracting the supervillains. But of course, we would be far better off if you just delete the whole thing, right? Just without any supervillains or superheroes.
Right, true.
But in reality, and I think that The Boys, gets this correct.
Yeah.
If you have metahumans, superhumans walking around, that's a political thing, right? There's no way that's not going to influence politics.
Definitely.
And again, it immediately shines a light on that. If you have Superman's ethos, you're a Boy Scout, like you want to do good, you care about people, and something horrible is happening in the world. It's not a supervillain. It's just one country attacking another country. It's whatever. It's just the normal tyranny that people do to each other. Is he going to sit on the sidelines of that because there's not a supervillain involved?
Of course not.
Right.
No. I think it would be an incredibly hard thing for someone like Superman to deal with. Like, what do you do? Like, what if there's a fascist person that's doing damage to the people that live in his country? Like, it would be a very hard thing to manage.
It also brings up the fact that superheroes generally are vigilantes, right? Yeah. There's even that role-playing game, Villains and Vigilantes, right? Superheroes are the vigilantes. But that's not really sustainable either. It's like in Batman, the powers that be just kind of like turn the other way and let him do his vigilante thing as long as they're not.
Yeah.
They're not.
But that blade cuts both ways.
It cuts both ways, but for Spider-Man, it doesn't work out. So Spider-Man is very bad PR, and so when he's a vigilante, people rag on him and think that he's an agent of chaos. But how about that they coordinate what they do with the powers that be? Justice means a process, right? So you cannot divorce super powerful metahumans from the political ramifications of their very existence. Yeah. And I think this took a step in that direction, sort of addressing that.
Right.
Even just like the interview with Lois Lane, she's like, did you check with the Department of Defense? Did you clear this with anybody?
Yes.
And he's like, no, he completely bypassed any judicial process. It basically was an extrajudicial thing that he did. And he's like, I didn't kill anybody.
So who were you rooting for in that conversation, though? Because I couldn't help but be like, he's Superman. Like, come on. What do you...
But I mean, that was aimed at us, the audience. Like, we're questioning.
Right.
Like, well, we just go along with this, but she's absolutely right.
She's right.
And he's naive, and he cannot... That naivete is unsustainable.
Yeah. True, but I loved his closer at the very end. He's like, people were going to die. I mean, what do you want me to do? So that makes it... It's a tough,
It frames the dilemma, but it doesn't answer the question.
Right.
Questions.
Yeah, and maybe if they do another movie, they'll explore that a little bit
That's
more.
why I loved this take. I think all the extra stuff that they added and brought it all in a good direction.
Okay, I have a ding on the movie overall. The movie was a little too tongue in cheek. It was cartoony.
It's a comic book superhero story. I mean, you got to have a little tolerance for cartoony.
Well, no, I mean, I've been enjoying like all of the superhero movies from Marvel and all that stuff. You know, all of the movies that have been coming out have been relatively serious. You know, a joke now and then to set the tone and to keep, to change the tone, from...
It's great.
It's good.
Great.
But
done well.
This movie seemed to lean a little bit too heavy with the humor. Like, for example... the robots that were in the Fortress of Solitude. I don't like those robots. I thought their whole existence seemed ridiculous. Like they looked silly, they acted silly, they talked silly. I didn't like it. It would be cooler if they were just more serious and more intense, like more in the tone of like how serious Superman should be.
My interpretation of that is that they were powered by sort of current day AI level technology, right? They were,
and not Kryptonian made.
Yeah,
that's a big.
They even said we're not sentient. We don't feel. We're just automatons. Like they were basically describing current AI. They were chatbots, and I thought that was fine.
No, I didn't like it.
All right, that's more of an aesthetic thing. So let's get to the science.
Yes, the science. Science.
We're going to start with the physics. Some of the physics. So this just because this is the classic problem with pretty much the whole superhero genre, and. They did not get away from this problem in this movie. They doubled down on it. So the biggest, like for example, like one of the biggest problems was at some point in the movie, a building is falling over and it's going to crush everyone on a bridge. Visually, it's stunning. And of course, you know what's going to happen. That building is not going to crush that poor woman who's stalled in her car.
Yeah.
Superman's going to swing in at the last moment and stop the building from falling on her. That's exactly what happens. But of course, the physics of that is impossible in several ways. So, I think we're agreeing up front. We agreed beforehand, before we started recording, that we're not going to talk about Superman himself. He's just a gimme. Like we're just taking for granted.
It's a walking gimme.
Of course.
He has the superpowers that he has, and there's no explanation for how he can do what he's doing.
It's science fantasy. It's
absolutely. So but given that you have a being like Superman who is as strong as he is, who is strong enough and has the anti-gravity flying ability, whatever, to hold up a building, would that even work?
Of course it wouldn't.
Of course it wouldn't. Buildings do not have that kind of structural integrity, especially in that direction. They're built to stand up, to sustain forces that are going down, and also a little bit of whatever wind, that swaying that they have, and maybe they're earthquake-proof in an earthquake zone.
Right.
Where is Metropolis, by the way? I don't think it's in California, or whatever. I don't think it's in an earthquake prone.
Near Springfield, I think, with the Simpsons. Somewhere near there.
But anyway, but no especially buildings that size are designed to be able to support themselves in almost horizontal position. In fact, that's the most egregious example where he's holding up a building. It's almost completely on its side.
That's half its weight.
Yeah.
Essentially half its weight.
The top half of that building would just fall off. That building would just crumble. It would not be able to hold itself up that way.
And you couldn't stop it either. Like, I think to suddenly stop it or divert it, the best thing that he could do would be just to get the people out of there.
Right, which is another problem.
Or how about making a big hole above the car so the car's not crushed? I mean, that would be kind of a quick and easy way to save her.
Even before that, though, you see all the buildings sort of falling like dominoing each other. I don't think that would happen
No,
either.
it wouldn't. Definitely not.
Buildings that size, they don't fall over like a tree. They fall down.
Yeah.
Once their structural integrity is compromised, they fall right into their footprint.
They would fall exactly the way the Twin Towers did.
Yes, that's exactly right. Even if they were sort of falling over, they would then go down. They would not keep going because they don't have...
Yeah, nothing is keeping the building together when it moves horizontally.
It would not be able to support its weight to the side like that.
So whatever magic he's using to fly, he's using that to support basically the entire building and preventing it from moving in any dramatic way.
But that isn't
no,
like a canon thing.
No, it's not. But he's certainly not supporting that building by his two hands. I mean, his hands would just go right through, and the building would just keep going.
That's the other problem. So either they're just ignoring that aspect of surface area, right? So so the force of that building is being supported with the area of his two hands. Mm-hmm. That's what it appears is happening.
Exactly.
The same thing happens when he's holding up the foot of the kaiju. He would just go right through the skin. He would not be able to hold up the weight of the kaiju with the area of his hand.
Right, unless the kaiju's skin was just some ridiculous...
the forces just don't add up.
Right, and I did like how we got actually crushed into the ground, which was, some nod to some signs. But the other structural integrity moment that we didn't see in this movie, but you will often see with Superman is, I love someone's falling, and he swoops in and catches her and keeps going up, where the person would literally just break all their bones.
There was a similar scene, though. Yep. So there was a woman who, I think was the kaiju scene, or one of those scenes where someone in the public is going to get killed, and he swoops in fast, scoops her up and flies her out of the way. She would have broke her neck. I mean, the acceleration, the forces of acceleration.
Her aorta would have disconnected.
Yes,
you can't move
those G's. She experienced G's that would liquefy.
Those were
exactly.
She would not have survived that. Those G
The only
forces.
way it would work is if Superman was flying down, right, and then grabbed them and slowed them down and then diverted them. But you can't fly like this and catch someone and go like that. It just doesn't work.
No, you'd have to decelerate them, which you never see because it's not as dramatic. But whatever, that's the way.
So they should have had to fly in, like she's standing there, fly in, land, grab her, and then accelerate away, rather than scooping her up at full speed.
Right. But even then, he'd have to accelerate.
He could have done
a few Gs.
You're right.
He could have 500 Gs.
Exactly. He could have pulled 4 or 5 Gs and made it seem plausible.
Yeah, just change what's happening in the story. Don't make it be that last minute thing. And this is rampant in all action movies and science. Anytime somebody's sweeping in, like Spider-Man will swing down and grab someone. It's like, nope, that's going to kill them.
No. Yeah. And again, there was in one of the Marvel movies when you had the who's the really quick guy?
Silver Streak?
Flash.
Not Flash, Silver Streak. When he's moving people really fast, he's supporting their neck. So at least there's a little nod to physics there.
Hey, that's fine.
But Jay's right. That would prevent them from breaking their neck, but not severing their aorta.
I hate to break it to you, Steve, but he's actually moving faster than light.
I know.
Right? So he would.
At least they're making an effort there.
He would be turning them to dust.
Jelly,
there would be nothing left.
In canon, isn't there his field is wrapping around them?
That's what I think.
They're safe.
That's not the way it was portrayed in the movie.
No, but you'll see that in some comic books and stuff. They try to retcon that. And okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and that would explain a lot of different problems.
But in the movies,
but getting back to Superman, where that's not even a retcon. But even if he did physically support her externally, when you get into a car accident, or you deceleration trauma, like you jump out of a window and land on the sidewalk, or you get into a 40-mile-an-hour head-on collision, the most likely cause of death is you rip your aorta, because your aorta is anchored to the heart, and then it's anchored
to the spine or something?
No, it's anchored when it branches off, but there's the aortic arch, which is not anchored. And that thing is just flopping in the wind there. So when you decelerate really fast, it tears your aortic arch, and you bleed out in seconds.
Well, you lose consciousness immediately if that happens and you're done. Yeah, and whatever. But this is a fun movie. It's for the kids. So we get all these things, but still,
just take acceleration into account. Yeah, that whole scene would have worked if he had just stopped, picked her up, and then accelerated away without grabbing her. Right. It would have been just as And just thinking about it for 2 seconds, and making the physics work, so at least not slap you in the face and take you out of the movie.
Right.
I like it when he flies in and protects them with his
Yes.
body or something.
That's
cool.
fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
He needs, all of this would be explained if he had a simple force field, just that he can, can protect people with or whatever. But look, the bottom line is, it is so broken. Superhero movies are so completely broken when it comes to physics, and it is the big gimme of all time.
Well, but the thing is, like, their powers are the gimme, but it's how they affect the world that I don't think is a gimme. Those are whoppers, because they don't have to be that way. It's not essential for their powers. It's not essential for the narrative. It's just lazy writing.
Yeah. And I think most people that watch movies, when they see like Superman fly up and grab that's someone that's falling and they stop suddenly, like I don't even think it occurs to most people, like,
but it occurs to a lot of people, and it's a cliche now. Everyone talks about it.
Yeah.
It was on the Big Bang Theory. I mean, it's in popular culture that this is a problem with the superhero genre.
So you have a problem with Superman?
Superman was never my favorite superhero because of the invulnerability problem.
Yeah.
He has two states: invulnerable or he's dead from kryptonite, and there's nothing in between.
Right, you're right.
It reminds me of
relatively invulnerable is fine.
Right. It reminds me of some of the Star Trek movies where basically the Enterprise is gimped from the beginning of the movie and is never at full power.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that with Superman.
I hate that too.
Make him semi-invulnerable. That's fine, but don't make it. Don't make the most of the movie where he's basically, getting his ass. He wasn't, but it took a while.
And the thing is,
really
who was kicking his ass? Who was kicking his ass?
Yeah, another
his own clone.
His own clone.
How do how does that work then? Superman versus Superman. Again, you could turn it into an endless clobber fest where the only damage is collateral damage, or they have to have the ability to kick each other's ass.
Of course.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. All right, let's talk about the Fortress of Solitude.
Okay, so the Fortress of Solitude, Bob. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Did you like it in the movie?
Yeah, I like how it can descend and protect itself. That was kind of a cool new twist in my mind from the movies.
I totally
anyway.
agree. They usually in movies like this, they don't explain, of course, every little thing that happens, right? So like the fact that the Fortress of Solitude comes up out of the water, they don't say the mechanism or whatever. You're just thinking like there is some type of thing happening.
And this is advanced Kryptonian technology,
Right.
Yeah.
so we don't have to worry about it. Is this plausible with today's technology?
And what we know from the movie is that fortress was there for a very long time, which could have been sent by his dad, like much earlier on.
How do we know that?
It came up that it wasn't created for him on the spot when his father chose to put him there. That fortress has been there, and I guess I was doing a lot of reading about people talking about this universe, and they were saying like that the Kryptonians put those fortresses in lots of different places.
So he preceded the Earth with this fortress.
Yeah.
All right.
They knew about the Earth, so
Yeah, it's totally plausible.
yeah.
He definitely knew about the Earth. So okay.
Yeah. So overall, other than it did look cool, it was fun. It's always fun or whatever. He tries to get into the fortress. He has to use they were sensing who he was biologically.
DNA.
Yeah.
So how is that happening? How are they remotely sensing his DNA without a biological sample?
That's one question I had for you guys.
We can't do that today. Certainly scan you from a distance and read your DNA.
Right.
But you go back 100 years, and who would have thought that we could look at the colors from different interstellar bodies and learn all these things about what their makeup is and everything. So it doesn't seem completely crazy out there, but
there is environmental DNA. You could just be shedding DNA.
Yeah,
that's
right.
And
Yeah,
they could
that's
be picking
interesting.
up. So
I mean, everyone's got a bacterial cloud hovering around them. That's very appropriate to you. You have a specific. It's like you could identify somebody based on this bacterial cloud.
Okay, but again, it wasn't quantified in the movie. Like we have to come up with a reason to make it work. We're retconning a little bit.
Remote
here.
That's like soft science.
Remote DNA sensing. I'm okay with that.
Overall, though, if the Fortress of Solitude is old, even if it's new, it would be in the harshest conditions, right? So there's going to be a thermal shift, right? The temperature is going to change where it is, and as you guys know, when the temperature changes, it's wear and tear on whatever material it is, and you have to just acknowledge the fact that these are materials that are based on the laws of physics. That we know what the materials out there in the world are, even if they made exotic, like super strong materials that we're unaware of, they still will wear out, and how would they maintain that structure, right? We didn't see any energy source. We can only imagine like they're getting thermal energy. They're getting solar radiation as
there
their
had to be an
source.
energy source. They didn't explicitly show it in the movie.
But
I mean, there's probably a fusion reactor in there somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. They have a very powerful source of energy.
Yeah.
Even if we give that to them, no problem. Still, this facility, like, there was no nod to any way of upkeep or whatever. Now, historically, it never was. I never saw any Fortress of Solitude that ever like, oh, this is how it's being maintained. It's made out of crystals, and everyone just assumes it's going to be fine to stay there forever.
Yeah, in the movies, they don't go into that level of detail for the fortress.
But
self-maintenance is not a problem, though, for again, that level of technology.
It would need it. It would definitely need it. Now, again, like, it's made out of crystal. And then, I know in earlier versions of Superman with Christopher Reeves, for example, he threw the crystal and it grew, right? It grew the Fortress of Solitude. And then you would think, okay, so there was some type of mechanism there for it to do this. Was it nanotechnology?
When you see the Fortress of Solitude emerging from the ice of Antarctica, is it growing at that time or just lifting?
I think it's just lifting up.
It
didn't seem to be moving, like things growing. It just seemed to come up and out, which I think, right there, it is just going up and down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I assumed as well, but maybe a second look.
It was a little ambiguous, I thought.
Okay.
It wasn't clearly like emerging from the ice or clearly growing. It was kind of both.
Yeah.
But whatever. That's a minor point.
But as science-minded people, we're always looking for the nod, right? We want to know. Like, they could have had one of the robots, like, actually doing maintenance in the background. That's all it would have taken. Oh, yeah, they are. They're maintaining it. We have to infer.
We can assume that.
Yeah.
Automatons in the Fortress of Solitude are maintaining it. That's not a big stretch.
Yeah, but I want to see it. I just want it's those little throwaway things. Like, again, it would have been so easy just to have one of them doing something in the background to indicate this is how it's being done, right? Because we have higher standards than most people.
So I don't know about you, but when I like a Fortress of Solitude, I don't make it out of ice. I make it out of a pocket universe, right?
Whoa. Pocket universes. Did you know that they are a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, they are a thing. Now, it's all based on inflationary theory, which talks about the universe expanding exponentially early in its history. And we have a model that is generally accepted by most cosmologists, and that's called the slow roll inflationary theory, and that is the idea that it expands fast and then it's slowed down and it's expanding, and that's what most cosmologists believe right now. But there's other models of inflationary theory. One of them is eternal inflation, where this exponential expansion is still happening right now. It's happening right now exponentially. But what happens is, according to this model, is that it slows down locally in various areas. So you've got a slowdown of this hyper expansion, and that's your pocket universe. So that would make us a pocket universe. Mm-hmm. And it's also essentially the multiverse, right? All these different multiverses could have been spawned by this hyper accelerating universe, and little areas slow down and they lose that exponential expansion.
You mean our entire observable universe is a pocket universe in a larger inflationary multiverse?
Yes. Okay. So that's the idea. So these are the pocket universes. Okay.
But he created the pocket universe in the movie, right?
I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah.
I think he did create it.
Totally.
Damn, man! I just thought he just tapped into it. So but it doesn't matter. The other interesting aspect here is that the laws of physics in these pocket universes are potentially different constants, different physics, different all that
with modern physics.
Yes, that's kind of like it. I mean, this is highly speculative, of course, but that's absolutely possible in this eternal inflation model. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you've got these pocket universes, different laws of physics. Let's talk about. So this is grounded somewhat in science. Okay, the other side of this coin is the portal. Yeah. Is the portals to get to these pocket universes. So the portal technology would be very, very similar to creating a traversable wormhole, which we have talked about before. So this would require a mastery of quantum gravity, which doesn't exist yet and could take many generations before we could even be considered to not only create it but master it. They would also need to have engineering that makes Tony Stark look like a kid with Tinker Toys, and they would also need to create prodigious amounts of like negative energy, which may or may not even exist. And when we develop quantum gravity, which fuses general relativity and quantum mechanics, when we finally create that, the theory might say, nope, you're not going to make a traversable wormhole.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, which would mean that this portal to the pocket universe also wouldn't be doable. It might say, it's mathematically possible, but you're never going to practically ever be able to do anything like that.
Takes more energy than
who
we have in
knows?
the universe.
Bob, is that pocket universe like somewhere else in the universe, or
no?
is it,
this is outside of our universe.
Oh, okay.
So
it's not like a little anomaly inside our universe. It's a separate entity.
It's a separate universe. Wow. So and like I said, portaling to it would be very similar to creating a traversable wormhole. The thing about a traversable wormhole, though, is that when you step out of the other end, where are you? You're going to be probably somewhere else in our universe, and you could just step right out, and you're good to go. Whatever, if you're in space, you're probably going to have a spacesuit, of course, but you can step out without much of a problem. In this scenario, he's connecting to a pocket universe that could potentially have different laws of physics. So you can't just like blithely walk into that not knowing. So you could potentially enter a pocket universe that's similar enough to our universe where it would be as it's portrayed in the movie. But if there's different physical laws, the worst case scenarios are dramatic.
Yeah.
I mean, you could open the portal of his little techno tunnels, and you could find essentially plasma or weird particles flying out, creating a weird area around the portal that's potentially uninhabitable, at even changing physics to a certain degree. You could have a scenario where there's a good-sized bubble around the portal where the laws of chemistry is completely different. Physics doesn't really work. So you've got this area that just like probably be a dead zone that nobody could ever venture into because the laws of physics are completely different.
Right.
Worst case scenario, you could
wait, that wasn't the worst case scenario?
No, you want to hear worst case scenario? That was just a bubble. Who knows how big it could potentially be. Yeah. Worst case scenario would be something like a universe with a different vacuum state. So that would mean that this vacuum state could essentially cause a phase transition into our universe where the laws of physics gets rewritten at near the speed of light. So essentially, it's rebooting the universe where chemistry can't happen, atomic formation can't happen. Who knows? It's basically rewriting all the laws that expands it's at near the speed of light.
Yeah, that's bad.
So that's bad. So Luther's like, yeah, I want a really cool prison.
He's rolling the dice.
I'll roll the dice on this one. I just need 20 20s in a row, and I'm good. It's like, no, it's kind of silly based on what the physics that we know.
Yeah.
And his tunnels, I suspect if this is ever even possible, the tunnel that would need to be created would be a lot more dramatic than his little techno tunnel that he created.
He could never do it. I don't think Reed Richards could do this. And
they do some crazy stuff. They do some amazing stuff. If you look, especially look in the comics and stuff.
All of Lex Luthor's technology he invented himself. Is that the implication here? Like, he's not using alien technology.
We don't really know. We don't think we know. It's not specifically implied, and he doesn't see. He seems.
Oh, it's implied that it's his technology.
Yes, in the movie.
Yeah,
I would say
there's just no way
he's a genius who makes these.
He's a super genius, and I think they really took it a couple of levels beyond anything that was done with Lex Luthor in the other movies.
That's like thousands of years advanced beyond where we are
it's
now.
really. If you compare it to things that are done in the comics, okay, it's kind of like status quo. But for the movie type of stuff, it was kind of surprising where they took it. I enjoyed it, but it's like I was a little surprised how far.
Now, Mr. Terrific was more like Tony Stark level of technology.
Yeah.
I love that dude,
but that was unrealistic too. I mean,
yes.
He's got an anti-gravity ship. I mean,
he's so awesome though.
I like the character. I like it's a very comic booky character. Everything was good, but if we're talking about just to be pedantic about the technology we're looking at there, his technology was hundreds of years beyond where we are
without
now.
a doubt.
Not the thousands of years that Lex Luthor was playing around with.
To put numbers on it, that's not unreasonable.
So you invented anti-gravity and you're using it for your own personal ship and your little metal balls, your T-balls, whatever you call them, but not
T-spheres.
Your T-spheres. You're not sort of marketing that technology to the world.
Yeah, that's the level of tech that I would kind of expect from Lex Luthor, right? That level, not like the
definitely not.
And 4 levels beyond it that was shown, which is still fun, and it's still fascinating.
How about this?
Think about scientifically.
Lex Luthor creates a general artificial intelligence that becomes super intelligent, and then it creates some of his technology for him.
But did it?
No, I'm just saying that's what they could have done, but they didn't. They had it come out of his brain, which makes zero sense.
Yeah. He's not just tinkering. So there's one thing, like, Tony Stark is basically leveraging existing science and technology to make cool shit, right? But this stuff he is doing hundreds of years of scientific research to back up this tech. It's not just a technological advancement, it's a scientific advancement that one person cannot do in a lifetime, let alone in whatever.
Yeah, and he seems pretty young in the movie. Like, what did he do? That he started working on this when he was a teenager, and he got there when he was 35? Like, no way.
Right.
When you see a movie like this, the writers aren't even trying. It's all what looks cool, what feels cool. There isn't a real backbone to any of it.
Well, but like the Green Lantern, which I love that character in this movie, by the way.
Yeah,
he was funny as hell. But he has alien technology, and that's it. Like, it's super advanced alien technology. That's the basis of everything that he does. I'm good with that. That's a gimme, right? Mr. Terrific, where's the technology coming from?
He creates it.
But that's massively implausible.
Yeah.
That's a whopper to me. That transitions it from a gimme to a whopper.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate that the Green Lantern guy didn't have a super advanced haircut.
Yeah,
it was just like,
what was with that? Why would they give him such a weird haircut?
I don't know.
I think they wanted him to look goofy.
It took me out a lot. I love that. I love the actor. I'm happy he was there. He did a great job.
Again, that's another cartoony thing about the film that just took me out. Like, really? Like, that's the character.
I agree. The haircut was unnecessary and a step too far. Yeah. I agree with that. The character could have been the same character without the ridiculous haircut.
Yeah, I bet you when he realized that that's what he was going to be, you're going to have this in the movie. He's like, what? Really? Okay.
I can just imagine. Was it Will from Stranger Things walking up to him and being like, "I feel your pain. I feel your pain."
Oh, he was worse than Will from Stranger Things.
It was worse.
That was beyond a bowl cut.
Yeah, but that was decade appropriate though. Will's haircut. This
age appropriate.
Yeah. The poor actor though had to go like 3 seasons with that.
It's like in the Superman movie, it's like he went to Supercuts and said, do the wackiest thing you can think of, and that's what you end up with.
I love how they referenced the haircut. They joked about it. Okay, what's next?
What's next is we have more technology problems.
Okay.
So let's talk about Nanite Girl, the engineer, right, as they refer to her.
Formidable. Damn.
Yeah, so first of all, as a supervillain or superhero, whatever, that technology, that idea for a character, I love it. Narratively, visually, so my understanding is, I watched the movie obviously more than once in prep for this, is that she's basically made of nanites now. And that's how they portray her in the movie.
Oh yeah.
That's
right.
Correct. Yep.
So, but they don't really address, like, is there a brain in there? Is there any biological component left, or did the nanites completely replace her cellular structure?
Well, did she ever
her biological
take a shape
elements?
Where her brain couldn't be maintained? It couldn't maintain its.
I mean, her head stayed basically intact the entire time, so it could be just that.
But her face gets scratched. Remember the super dog? Mauls her face, and it's all nanites under the skin.
All right, there you go. She's basically all nanites.
So that's her head, but they didn't expose her brain. So we don't know if there's any biological component left. But if there is, it's minimal. It's like her brain and everything else is nanite.
Or
she's all entirely nanite, which means then she's an AI, if that's the case.
Yeah.
So, okay, where did this technology come from? They kind of imply that it was her, she's the engineer, it was her research, and she merged with her own nanites. So again, we're kind of leaping about 1,000-ish, like kind of years ahead in terms of.
It's hard to put numbers.
It's hard to put a number on it, but that's what we're talking. Order of magnitude. That we're not going to have that nanotech in 10 years, in 50 years, in 100 years.
Maybe never.
Maybe never.
Especially
but if it is going to be possible, we're talking probably more like.
Well, it is never because what's her energy source?
Well, yeah. So there's a lot of questions that we don't have answers to. So one is, what's the energy source, and how are all of those nanites getting powered? The other is, how are they coordinating with each other? Because
like a swarm.
It's
technology.
a swarm.
Yeah.
But that means that they all have some kind of receiver, transmitter in terms of they're all communicating with each other.
How small can those actually be?
How small could those actually be? Because even when she like she throws the blades around, she's controlling them. Or when she throws the ball of nanites at Superdog and then later infiltrates Superman with them. So all of this has huge problems for the canon and for the internal consistency of this movie and of Superman, right? So if he needs oxygen to live, how does he fly between systems, right? Fly to other star systems? Or are we saying in this universe, this version of Superman, he's got to take a spaceship to get to another system?
Sure, I guess.
If you could, otherwise, you could only last for hours in space on one breath of air. Or does he? We know he's powered by the yellow sun, but does that energy which can heal him and everything? So it sounds like it's biological. Does that replace his need for oxygen?
It's so
or not?
It really, this one rubs me the wrong way because it really does go against like some basic things about Superman.
It's hard to make this work with Superman.
I mean, he goes underwater, he's in outer space, all sorts of things. Everything kind of points to the fact that he's not that dependent on oxygen.
Yeah.
Well, they set the tone. He could last for hours. I think that's all he's going to need in terms of space travel for the movies in the foreseeable future. How many times has Superman traveled far through space in a Superman movie? Basically never.
Well, in this
movie,
not that
big of a deal.
We know that Supergirl was going to other star systems.
Yes,
but we don't know. I don't think do they have a spaceship, or is she just flying there?
They might.
I felt like she was just flying there, but
if there's this oxygen limitation, it's got to be a ship or some beaming.
But that's a big gimme right there. Like just to assume that because
she's getting drunk on other planets. There's probably some good sci-fi tech there, like ships. I'm not worried about that. That's not a big problem for me.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't.
But it wasn't. We didn't see that though.
No.
So it's possible they didn't think of it, and
The whole thing bothers me though.
It does bother me too.
They didn't need to make that a specific vulnerability.
So now they have to be right. It's a vulnerability, and they have to make sure that they are internally consistent with the few hours on a breath of air thing.
Yeah. Or explain it, or give some explanation.
And if he's like holding his breath, then he really shouldn't talk, right?
Right.
Now, I would think that Superman,
and sometimes he blows out, like he will.
When he does an ice breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would think because he's so strong.
Now he's back down to a few minutes.
If he breathed in an incredible amount of air, you see him breathing in air, and it's like
think about it.
Air.
He can imagine him breathing in 50 tanks of oxygen worth.
How's he doing that? Where's it going?
He's compressing it. It's totally compressible. Yeah. Totally compressible.
But then talking with
it's not like water
would probably be a problem, right? I mean, the way that you exhale and the way that
his lungs will become a tank of compressed air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's Superman, man.
Yeah, but with what valve? I mean, you'd have to have new anatomy just to make that work. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you have it.
He's semi-invulnerable.
Yeah.
I could have no problem him taking in a ridiculous amount of air and going for many, many hours, or use a spaceship. No big deal. He's semi-vulnerable now. So
and the thing too is we have to assume that his body isn't using oxygen like ours, because if he was using oxygen to do the things that he does like we do, right? I walk up a flight of stairs, I might need to breathe heavier for a little bit. He's flying. He's doing this. He's doing that. Like his body doesn't need oxygen like our bodies do.
And there's a whole solar charging thing that who knows what that's really doing to help to heal him and help him out.
This is bad. This is really bad. This breaks a lot of things.
I disagree.
It's complicated.
It complicates a lot of things. They better deal with it very carefully.
Right. It's incompatible with like the comics.
Yeah,
it invalidates a lot of that. But these are the movies.
Unfortunately,
these are the movies.
It's a new version now.
I bet you that there is no internal consistency from movie to movie. In this movie, he could be taken out.
That's my point.
That would be a problem.
Bob.
That would be. Well, if Gunn makes another one, I think he would probably try to be as consistent as he can. And that, yes, we will definitely call him on it if he's all of a sudden holding his breath for light years. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it raises a lot of questions that are not answered.
Right.
Right. And it raises a lot of potential problems that they now have to deal with.
Yep. It complicates,
Yeah.
This is one of those circumstances where you could very easily find yourself like they did with Star Trek. You know? It's like you have all these different things and edge cases and this, and now you can beam people to other planets, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know,
you've written yourself into a corner.
Yeah, like, okay, why don't I just beams, why don't they beam someone from Earth to that planet instead of taking a spaceship then?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not cool. They do it for the flair. They don't do it to
they do it because it works in that moment for that problem without
Exactly.
thinking of the implications for the entire canon.
And speaking of that,
Yeah.
the Kaiju monster,
Yeah.
the little guy,
You didn't like
that
him.
group big.
Little guy.
I personally didn't like him because he was too cartoony. He was silly. You know, I
He's a
had enough of
kaiju
that.
Though. They are kind of that way.
So
they are cartoons.
I was okay with him.
We
I was
don't
okay
know,
with
we
him.
don't know much about the creature. It was released, and it quickly got bigger and bigger and bigger. First of all, like it wasn't taking in food that I could see.
Well, how do we know?
Well, we're not seeing it.
We released at night, and then during the day, the next day, I'm presuming it was massive. So either that thing was eating like hell.
And eating what? People?
I don't know. Right,
so
but you're right. Mass
rocks?
doesn't come from nowhere.
Right. Unless he was unbelievably dense. But if
He
he
would have fallen through the road.
he would have
He'd be bouncing along the road.
And he's not a big balloon, right?
Yeah.
So think about there's a few biological things here we have to state. It's really obvious. People have talked about this for a very long time. When you get creatures that big, for example, in the movie The Ants, where you have these giant ants that are standing like 10 feet tall, they couldn't support themselves.
The physics don't work.
The body wouldn't be able to support itself. Even this creature, muscle can only be so strong, bone can only be so strong. We have to have all these things all these gimmies are built into this guy in order for him to exist and walk around.
Yeah, you can't have normal muscle. You can't have muscles that exist on any animal on Earth, right? It would have to be some kind of super strong muscle that has way more power per cross-sectional area.
Exactly, and there's lots of biological problems here. Like one of them is his nervous system would have to move way faster than normal nervous system does, right? Because sending a signal back and forth, which means he would be sluggish.
Yeah.
He would definitely not be doing any highly.
Or you need to have a distributed nervous system.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Which we don't know anything about, but
and just the oxygen thing again. There's a limit to how big things can get based upon how much oxygen there is in the atmosphere. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, when dinosaurs were around, the oxygen concentration in the atmosphere was higher than it is today.
And that's why
bugs were this big.
Bugs were gargantuan.
So we would have to have a massive system of distributing oxygen throughout its body as well.
There's lots of things biologically that just make zero sense. First off, like I said, his nervous system, his metabolism would have to be unreal. It would for him to eat enough whatever he's doing, and then to turn that into his new biomass, and where he's getting magnificently huge. He was like a skyscraper. That's impossible.
Transporting fluids is hugely problematic for something that.
And then what's the big one? Heat dissipation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
He wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, that's why he breathes fire. That's the heat dissipation.
Okay. On that one.
No, seriously.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But his structural integrity would be the really obvious thing that would just shut him down.
Yeah, he would have to be made of stuff that's stronger than any biological material we know on Earth.
How about any material we know of? Because he's moving around.
Yeah.
He's not sure if
have,
he's made out of concrete and steel.
Titanium infused bones.
Yeah,
and,
it's just not. It doesn't work.
Nanocarbon nanofiber ligaments and stuff like that. Yeah.
And Bob, what's the last one?
All right. This was a cool guy. Metamorpho. This is the guy that changed his hand into kryptonite.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's the deal with this guy scientifically? How plausible is that? Not very.
Not very.
I'll just throw that out there.
What do you mean?
All right. So this isn't chemistry as we know it. This isn't
It's
even
partly chemistry.
It's not nanotechnology. What is it? It's
alchemy.
It's basically, I would describe it as nuclear biology. This is transmutation, right? Fission and fusion's happening.
Oh, yeah.
How is that happening? All right, first off, the energy required is surprising for these nuclear reactions. Our biology, chemistry is essentially shuffling around electrons, right? That's 1 to 10 electron volts. Not a lot, 1 to 10. Nuclear processes like he would have to be doing is 1 to 10 mega electron volts per nucleon. So just to transmute one atom into a different element is 1 to 10 million electron volts. So his biology, whatever that is a million times, at least a million times more power is required. And how many nucleons do you think he was transmuting? Not one. He was doing millions at a time.
Yeah.
So that's a million times
A million.
1 to 10 mega electron volts. We're talking billions of electron volts. So the power required to do what he was doing is prodigious. It's inconceivable.
And the biology is inconceivable too, because how could anything biological like be wielding those forces?
Exactly. And then, but so it's not just the energy required to pull this off. It's also, what about the radiation released? You have gamma rays, the most powerful and nastiest form of light there is. Neutron radiation. This is the stuff you always want to guard against if you're for nuclear reactors. You got to deal with the neutron radiation, and that's just the first. Those are the top two. There's plenty more beta radiation, all sorts of other stuff. And how about the heat? The heat that's released, we're talking in the range of terajoules, trillions of joules. It would ignite the atmosphere. Doing what he's doing would ignite the atmosphere. So so this guy, he doesn't even need to change his hand into kryptonite. All he's got to do is transmute to anything, and the gamma radiation, the neutron radiation, and the heat would kill anything in the immediate area, including Superman. Would all be dead. I mean, I pretty much guarantee it. Even semi-invulnerable Superman would not withstand this heat and this radiation, especially since he was 10 feet away. So the bottom line is that coupling a biology that has a consciousness with it, a typically delicate consciousness. These aren't hardy things. But even if you extrapolate, any type of consciousness that we can think of is not compatible with this nuclear biology.
Yeah.
And they would not be coupled. They would be decoupled. And you can make a tool that does this potentially. But having him be a living organism that also does that just does not work. Too much energy required, too much radiation would just fry his mind.
Would femto technology be able to do anything like this?
It's potential. Femto technology is about, I think it's 1 million times further down the scale than nanotech. It potentially, if you could pull it off, you could potentially mess with nucleons, protons and neutrons. But even that is probably won't ever be happening, because you still have, first off, you have the nanoscopic control. Not only does he have the power and radiation shielding, you also need fine, super fine control to do that. How is he doing that?
Yeah, you're right.
And the radiation is still going to fry.
The energies are still the same.
Yes, all the other stuff is still the same.
He's arguably the most powerful being, if you think about
it. He's incredibly.
Could you kill him? Could you kill this guy?
He is. I've heard him described as functionally immortal. I mean, he could turn into gases as well. You start messing with him, and he would just basically, he could dissipate as a gas. And what are you going to do about that? If you threw him in the sun, that's probably where he lives, because this is what he does. I would say you'd have to throw him into a black hole.
So he's worried about his son in the movie, right? And he could just turn to Lex Luthor and say, "You should be worried about him. My son will kill you." You know what I mean? Because you don't know what kind of being we are.
Jack from Incredible. So he was really cool. I like that guy.
And he was a really nice guy.
Yeah, he was just trying to save his kid.
Yeah.
And his abilities are cool. Powerful guy. And
but he's a little emotional.
But the scientific plausibility is, definitely not there.
The energies involved is just too great. I mean, you could argue he's generating the energy because you could get energy by fusing things up to iron, right? Or you can get sometimes energy out of fizzing higher, atomic weight elements.
Yeah.
But then you had to use that energy to make things that require an input of energy.
Right.
Maybe he's also turning things into matter, antimatter, and annihilating them and making.
I mean, that could be a power source, as well.
Yeah. So those powers could also give you the energies you need to do it, but you still have those energies at work in such a small space.
And here's the other thing.
Right.
Are we to assume that he can make anything?
Yeah,
and he's aware of all of it? How do you know what kryptonite was?
Any element or compound. I mean, if he was just given,
a tiny little bit,
the information he needed, then he could shuffle it around and make the element.
Seem like, it's so much. It's such a massive gimme. As a matter of fact,
it's a little
this
OP.
movie is a massive gimme. The whole thing, right?
Like most superhero movies, they're not trying to be scientific.
Yeah, but then you've got things like the pocket universe, which is based on some theoretical models.
So why was there a black hole in the pocket universe?
Oh, geez, I didn't even think of that.
That doesn't make any sense, does it? I guess there could be a black hole anywhere.
It's another
universe. Why was there a black hole there?
Because it's cool.
Because you had to kill the evil Superman.
It's a great household disintegrator.
It just gives you the idea. Like again, this is such a
disposal,
a cherry on top of the whole thing. They will write whatever they want in the moment to do whatever they want to do in that moment without any like foresight to like. What if we make another movie or any of that?
I know it's all about the narrative and the cinema and the storytelling and
the spectacle.
And the spectacle. I get that. We get that. We know this is not meant to be a scientific treatise or anything.
We enjoyed it.
We enjoyed it. I loved the movie. It was a good movie. Where we come from is it's still fun to talk about the science, just as a way of learning about science. But also, this is why we have our scale, right? Some things follow science explicitly, soft science, hard science. Some things are gimmies because it's like, that's just the narrative. They're just assuming that's just fantasy. But what we really get concerned about are the whoppers, the things where it's an unforced error. It's just lazy writing. It's inconsistent, and then it's unnecessary. It's not necessary for the plot. It's not necessary for anything. It's just they just don't know the science, don't care, didn't consult the right people, and they could have actually made it better and more interesting if they actually tried to be consistent with the science.
I would say we would geek out if they actually took what we said,
have a
seriously
advisor
and made it even more plausible.
Yeah, and on top of that, Bob, like I said, The Expanse did it. It feels really good to see someone care enough. But they want a guy that can change his hands into kryptonite, or they needed to get kryptonite somehow, right? How would they get there if they don't break the laws of physics or whatever? There are things that they kind of have to do in order for it to get there. Do you have to have a character turn his body into kryptonite? No, they could have had some other thing. But they at the very least, they created an interesting character in a weird situation. And you know what I mean? There's a human element to that, which I appreciate.
He was a gimme. He wasn't a whopper. That's fine. Yeah. He was interesting. That kind of, I was totally okay with him.
Yeah.
But it's just so we know.
It's basically magic level.
Yeah.
At that point.
And the funny thing, and I think most of our listeners and watchers will agree with us, when you really do start to wrap your head around general science, it's hard to not be taken out of movies in certain circumstances. And this is kind of like what we're talking about. What we want is we want to be able to watch a movie that expresses some scientific or just, story plausibility. So we don't have to sit there for like 2 minutes in the theater while other stuff is going on going, oh, wait, that couldn't happen.
That doesn't make sense.
I don't like it. So being taken out for any reason, to me, is the death of a story, the death of everything that makes movies fun.
And it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
All right, so I don't think we can go through everything individually, but we could. I don't think there's a lot of real hard science in this movie.
No.
It was basically there were whoppers and gimmies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And we talked about
whoppers and gimmies, with some of it, like the Pocket Universe, having some grounding in scientific theories and models.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because inflation is an unknown territory. We are scratching the surface with inflation. So who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, it's some grounding, much more grounding than most of it.
In this circumstance, instead of going through each thing, I think we should just rate the movie for what we think it predominantly was.
I think it's predominantly a gimme.
Yeah.
I would say it's a whopper.
You think so?
It was mostly whoppers. Yeah, it was mostly whoppers.
Well, we focused on the whoppers because that's what we like to talk about. But it's a superhero movie. I think it's half and half, which is why we're having the dilemma.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can see that. I see where you're going. With
it's basically half whopper, half gimme.
All right, guys, this movie is a wimmy.
Gimme whopper.
Gimme whopper. Wimmy. It's a wimmy.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
It's an edge case. What was that actor's name again? David
Cornsweet.
Cornsweet. That's.
See, that mental image.
That is a strange last name.
Yep.
But he was good. I thought he did a good job.
He was fine. He's no Cavill, but
no.
I like. He was good.
He was good.
Christopher Reeves and Henry Cavill, to me, they are the two Supermen that I accept.
They're hard to live up to.
Yeah.
But he did a fine job.
Yeah, he did.
For this movie,
he
was
did.
Good.
He absolutely did.
And don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can also become a patron if you really want to give us support. You can go to patreon.com/Alpha Quadrant and the number 6.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time when we rip apart the signs in some other movie.